Thank you. I'm happy to see many of you here. Good morning. Can I feel the energy? Yes. I'm going to talk about human AI, and I love this combination. And what makes this field very fascinating for me, and I would say my passion grew since 2014 kind of time frame where I felt, hey, you know what? You as a human is creating this AI, and at runtime, this AI is helping so many people. It's helping so many humans. And isn't that a fascinating combination, really to enhance the experience of every human? I love that. And of course, I'm passionate about healthcare, and this is what I'm going to zoom into, the symbiotic relation and how we can create value in healthcare. Well, I've been introduced, and I did say that I'm super passionate about creating insights for clinicians, for patients, to make a difference to their life. And I chose this picture. It's funny, because it's actually created with AI. It's an algorithm. It's a generative AI that creates images, like ChatGPT that creates text. Stable diffusion. So very easy. I just gave it my LinkedIn profile, and I said, I want a digital twin, sci-fi, cyborg version. Ha! And out it came. And I thought that was funny, and I will use it today. All right, so I'm going to start with a little light intro. Is AI influencing us every day? And zooming into a little bit of healthcare, what it means. And lastly, how each one of you can make a big difference in order to create that value. So, a little light intro. I think all of us are talking about ChatGPT and kind of using it every day. I've even used it for some articles, by the way. You can just create a draft version and feed it in, and you get a beautiful text out. So, since it was released in December, it's amazing, just in a matter of a few days, you have millions of users. And it's just growing. And do we think that there is no bias yet? I thought these two jokes were a little bit funny. So the first one says, hey, ChatGPT, what is 5 plus 2 equal to? And then it says 7. And then I said, but my wife thinks it's 8. What do I do now? And then ChatGPT says, it's understandable that you may not want to correct your wife. But be respectful and gentle there. So I thought it was funny. Well, I wonder where it's learning that from. And on the right side, tell me a joke about men. And then it says, why do men need instant replays on TV? Well, because they forget after 30 seconds. Like, And then I did ask, tell me a joke about women, and then it said, well, I'm not programmed to be inappropriate. And I thought, oh boy, I think I need to teach some women jokes over there. All right. So is AI changing our lives every day? Do we unconsciously use it and not even know about it? If you haven't seen this video, you should. I thought it was hilarious. I saw it on LinkedIn. I think it was posted by Frank. I don't know, Frank, if you're here. I thought it was hilarious, and you should watch it. But just a little snippet.
Some have already jumped to worrying about the AI apocalypse and asking whether this ends with the robots destroying us all. But the fact is, there are other, much more immediate dangers and opportunities that we really need to start talking about, because the potential and the peril here are huge. So tonight, let's talk about AI, what it is, how it works, and where this all might be going. Let's start with the fact that you've probably been using some form of AI for a while now, sometimes without even realizing it. As experts have told us, that once the technology gets embedded in our daily lives, we tend to stop thinking of it as AI. But your phone uses it for face recognition or predictive texts, and if you're watching this show on a smart TV, it is using AI to recommend content or adjust the picture. And some AI programs may already be making decisions that have a huge impact on your life. For example, large companies often use AI-powered tools to sift through resumes and rank them. In fact, the CEO of ZipRecruiter estimates that at least 3/4 of all resumes submitted for jobs in the US are read by algorithms, for which he actually has some helpful advice.
When people tell you that you should dress up your accomplishments or should use non-standard resume templates to make your resume stand out when it's in a pile of resumes, that's awful advice. The only job your resume has is to be comprehensible to the software or robot that is reading it, because that software or robot is going to decide whether or not a human ever gets their eyes on it.
It's true. Odds are a computer is judging your resume, so maybe plan accordingly. 3 corporate mergers from now, when this show is finally cancelled by our new business daddy, Disney Kellogg's Raytheon, and I'm out of a job, my resume is going to include this hot photo of a semi-nude computer. Just a little something to sweeten the pot for the filthy little algorithm that's reading it. So AI is already everywhere, but right now, people are freaking out a bit about it. And part of that has to do with the fact that these new programs are generative. They are creating images or writing text, which is unnerving because those are things that we've traditionally considered human. But it is worth knowing there is a major threshold that AI hasn't crossed yet. And to understand, it helps to know that there are 2 basic categories of AI. There is narrow AI, which can perform only one narrowly defined task or small set of related tasks, like these programs. And then there is general AI, which means systems that demonstrate intelligent behavior across a range of cognitive tasks. General AI would look more like the kind of highly versatile technology that you see featured in movies, like Jarvis in Iron Man, or the program that made Joaquin Phoenix fall in love with his phone in Her. All the AI currently in use is narrow. General AI is something that some scientists think is unlikely to occur for a decade or longer, with others questioning whether it will happen at all. So just know that right now, even if an AI insists to you that it wants to be alive, it is just generating text. It is not self-aware. Yet.
All right. So, well, all the AI that is there today, I mean, it's still amazing, right, if you think about the generative AI and the trend. But it's still not self-aware, and that's where humans come, this human AI team. It's the humans that's creating the AI, and we can make a huge difference. So what I like about this quote, "To end with is AI shaping us," Satya Nadella talks about, hey, AI is going to be the runtime. It's going to shape everything we do. Well, if that's the case, shouldn't we ensure that this AI is not biased if it's really going to help shape everything we do, right? So that's why I think that's a big theme, and you will see that throughout the day. Let's look at healthcare. I'm just painting a picture, maybe 2023, maybe it takes a decade, maybe it's faster than that. And I was reading this article from Atul Gupta. If you haven't read it, it's on LinkedIn as well. And I thought it was beautiful. So imagine in 10 years what it can do. If you go to the doctors today, I mean, let's take a patient with lung cancer, or even a patient with, I don't know, blockage, coronary artery disease. What typically happens, it takes a long time to diagnose. You have multiple tests. You want to really be sure, should I treat the patient, should I not treat the patient? And then finally getting an appointment, actually doing the treatment. And then, you know, even if the treatment is not precise, you can have a lot of side effects and other conditions. So how can you really change that? Imagine this world where hopefully 5, hopefully 10 years, where an interventionalist, he's having this patient in front of him, and using, let's say, augmented reality, he's actually able to see where is the lung cancer, where's the tumor. And then imagine AI is helping him to identify what is the most optimal path to get to that tumor. And then the catheter has that intelligence to automatically really assist him to get to that path. And the AI is helping to even identify exactly what tumor contour you should radiate with minimal impact to any other organs or vessels. The AI is quantifying that for you. And imagine the diagnosis and the treatment is on the same day, which doesn't happen today. So he's diagnosed this, he's seeing that tumor, he knows what volume to radiate. He's done the biopsy, and at that time, using telemedicine, he can call the pathologist and say, what is the biopsy telling me? Is it malignant? Should I radiate now? And then, at that point, they can immediately plan for the treatment and treat exactly the targeted volume shown by AI, and then you have the best outcome for that patient, and that patient can go home. Isn't that beautiful if we are able to really achieve that level of precision, that level of personalization? Well, that's going to take time. I know that, but it's perseverance, right? We can do it. And of course, again, there, responsible AI, explainable AI matters so much. Using the right data matters so much. So what do patients look for? Ultimately, they're looking for a personalized care that is connected. And one of the things that we think about and work on a lot is this 360-degree view or the longitudinal view of the patient. And that's hard, meaning when I am at, let's say, at the clinic, when I'm in front of the clinician, if I know that my clinician actually has the full longitudinal view, what happened to the patient until that point of time? Did he or she already have a treatment? Do they have other allergies or side effects? If I have the full 360 information about the patient, I make the best decision. And today, that's still not the case. I know I was talking to a friend just earlier today, and she was also saying, I'm going to see my cardiologist, but does he or she actually have the full information, or is she just looking at a small portion of the data? Wouldn't it make a big difference if I had that confidence it's a complete 360-degree view they are looking at? I would feel so much better. So, are we that far off from that vision? What are the steps we are already taking? What does it look like today in 2023? A few examples. Not going into all, but a few examples. So we just painted a picture for the intervention. Let's start with, if you take a care pathway, the early diagnosis. What patients really want, where data science, where AI can make a difference is, first of all, catching the disease so early that I can prevent, I can maybe monitor that patient. I don't have to give them an expensive or even a difficult treatment where every treatment, whether it's surgery, radiation, or whatever, every treatment is going to have a side effect. So can I prevent that? And this is where AI-assisted diagnosis really helps, whether it's in radiology, whether it's in pathology, really also understanding the specific disease. So for instance, can I really delineate the lesion? Can I quantify the information? So especially during COVID time, it was so helpful to be able to quickly triage patients. And if you look at pathology as well, you are expecting pathologists to look at each and every cell and differentiate. What is already there today, for example, if it's prostate cancer, to really look at the Gleason score. You can automate that. You're looking at the cells and you're saying what the score is. And based on the score, you know how aggressive the disease is or not, right? So AI-assisted diagnosis to be very precise. Is it early? Should I treat? Should I not treat? What is the disease progressing fast? What should I do? That's already helping clinicians make a better decision. Let's look at a different one. I mean, I really love this example of oncology patient similarity. I remember clinicians saying, in oncology, one of the big practices is a multidisciplinary tumor board. Maybe many of you know that. That means a multidisciplinary team of experts is looking at each patient's data and making a joint decision, should I treat or not. That's a lot of multimodal data. You have different imaging tests, you have different pathology results, biopsy results. You're looking at all the data together. And what is very exciting about this, where data science plays a huge role, is clinicians said, I typically don't know what is the outcome of all the decisions that I've taken so far. So can I see similar patients and what was their outcome? Did they have side effects? Did they have complications? Was there a recurrence of the disease? I don't typically know that, what happened in my institution so far. So can I see similar patients? You see a great example about how AI can sort of augment the human expertise, because it's very hard for them to do that on their own otherwise. And another example I remember where the clinician was saying, this was again prostate cancer example, the urologist said what they identified is that by looking at this cohort of patients with a particular genetic BRCA mutation in prostate cancer, they responded better to radiation therapy than chemo. You wouldn't know that otherwise. It's the data showing you those patterns. Of course, it takes time before you finalize it, but it generates evidence. And this is what we can make a huge difference to augment the expertise. Maybe a couple of last examples. I also love this in the ICU or in the ward. This was also particularly important during Corona time, but in general, right, after treatment, when patients are in the ICU, ultimately they want to go home as fast as possible, and you want to get out of the ICU. But imagine the nurses really looking at all these patients. How do they make sure they're paying attention to the right patient at the right time? Because if you don't do that, they could have other side effects like going to sepsis or shock or, let's say, kidney dysfunction. And once that happens, then it's more, let's say, impactful on the patient outcome because it's already occurred, and also it is more expensive for the healthcare costs. So imagine if you can predict even 30 minutes up front, saying that their condition is deteriorating, and you can see that from their vital signs. The nurse can pay attention to the right patient at the right time. And that's where it can really matter in healthcare. And of course, patients do want to go home. Whether it's biosensors or devices that help them to continue monitoring themselves when they go home, that's empowering patients. I think each one of you want to be empowered. Can I take care of myself better? And this is what we're also, so these are examples that we're working on at Philips, but I think there's a lot more which you're all familiar with, which really shows the state we are in healthcare today. And I think that's only the beginning. There's a huge difference we can make. So with that, what are we trying to do with data science and AI? Clinicians want actionable insights. It's not one data point. Data is just increasing every single day. And if a patient is in front of you, I don't want to just know the current lab value. I want to know the trend. I want to know, is it changing? Is it getting worse over time? But even better, what we want is a clinical prediction, which is hard, but that's what you want. Meaning, if the trend is getting worse, and if I know that this patient could have a cardiac event, whether it's 6 months or 1 year, then I want to know now because I can do something about it. And that's exactly what we're trying to do in healthcare. It's getting the clinical prediction, operational efficiency up, meaning to be able to predict the flow of patients. If patients are just waiting for their, for their diagnosis, that's not good. So how can I improve the flow, operational efficiency? How can I forecast better how many ICU beds I need next week? Not today, next week, so I can plan up front. How many stents should I order up front because I know I'm going to be treating coronary artery patients next week? That is the efficiency that we are looking for. And we can make that difference. So, in the end, when we talk about AI, we don't say we're not replacing clinicians, we're not replacing radiologists. We want to augment their expertise. AI is as good as the human experience that we can enhance, right? So it's a team. And what makes it fascinating about healthcare, which I love, is in the end, you understand the clinical dimension as well. It's not AI as a technology only. I see many of you from Philips, I recognize, right? What makes it so exciting is the healthcare. You got to understand the clinical workflow. What is the clinician looking for? Imagine yourself in the shoe of the patient. What would they want to hear? Again, I know there's a good talk about explainable AI and panel discussions. That's exactly what we want. Imagine a clinician is trying to explain to the patient. If you give them the most complicated explanation of a neural network, that's not what they want. They want to understand, what is it showing me? How can I see that? Similar patients, what does that mean? How are you trying to give me advice? And if we can make that explainable, transparent, it's going to make a huge difference. So we want to enable and empower clinicians to do what they do best. And that also means it's a teamwork. We as humans, it's not just the data scientists alone. It's a team, product managers, data scientists, software engineers, clinical scientists, all together as a team create that AI by better understanding the clinical scenario. And at runtime, this AI is helping clinicians, helping patients, helping nurses. So it's a team. We have to really look at the AI. So how do we get there? So closing out, well, it's not very current data, but even if you look at the latest data, I'm pretty sure women in computer science and data science is not quite there yet. There's a call for action, and I'm really excited that we have a woman in data science and get this community coming together. It's so important to have inclusion and diversity. And I'm also excited to see many of you here. So, in other words, women, it's not that because as women, there's no bias or it's bias-free. What I'm saying is, together, inclusion and diversity, bringing different perspective, bringing different understanding, because we say, hey, you know what? I guess many of you have read these articles, right, where typically the symptoms of cardiac, events and so on, the symptoms are experienced differently by men and women. And if you don't know that, yeah, you might not be coming to the right results. So you can play a significant role by sharing your experience and making sure that the AI is trained with the right data, trained with the right behaviors which you want to see from it. And that's what I mean. Inclusion is so important. And I want to end with, the life of a data scientist. I think it's beautiful. What is exciting is it's such a teamwork. And if I zoom into healthcare, what do data scientists do today? I mean, first of all, it starts with understanding the need, the clinical need. You got to know the real world. What makes the job so fascinating is you got to understand what the clinicians are looking for. What are the patients looking for? What data do I now need in order to create that insight, right? So you have to understand the real world, and then you are coming to the lab. In other words, once you understand that, you're simulating that to really train and create that algorithm. You need to know what data to collect. You need to understand where bias could be introduced in every step of the way. You need to create the right models. You need to have, let's say, work together with designers or user experience experts to say, how do I create that human experience, right? You're working with product managers to then really make sure that you validate in the real world. You're working with regulatory experts to make sure you know how to show that you have trained it in a good way. There is less bias. You cannot avoid it, but be transparent where it works and where it doesn't work, right? And then ultimately, what makes it also really fascinating is, even when you deploy it in the real world, you will always find, even if you have the good accuracy, precision, you will always find where it's not working. There will be some scenarios it's not working because you could not have encountered every single clinical condition. And to be able to get that feedback and retrain, again, it's great. And I know there is a talk later today about federated learning. That's also an approach where can we train from the different clinical partner sides instead of having to get the data back. It's not always easy to get the data back, right? So how can we train the model in order to make sure that we encounter those variations? We can, let's say, retrain the algorithms for that. Isn't it beautiful? I mean, that's what makes me excited. This whole feedback loop, it's so fascinating, the whole life cycle. There's so much we can do, and we are only in the beginning. Oh, that reminds me, when I was talking to a clinician at RSNA, he said, Tina, this is only the beginning. You know, the only limit is imagination. There's so many needs today. There's so many possibilities. That's the only limit if you really put your focus on it. So, well, we do have challenges, and that's also the beauty of a multidisciplinary team working on it, because as we already touched upon, you need to address the bias. You need to make sure that AI is explainable, it's transparent. You need to really understand what performance you're trying to achieve, accuracy, precision, and so on. Again, be transparent where it works, where it doesn't work, because regulatory aspects are so critical. You got to be able to explain what you've done. At the same time, enhancing the human experience. Don't forget that. The AI is only as good as how it's going to help. If you are distracting the person, a nurse, if you are confusing them with the result, you're only causing negative results. So you got to be aware of that. So my call to action, again, well, not the latest data, but you see, I doubt the numbers are not are much higher than this. So I would love to see more women in data science, and that would mean it's a beautiful symbiotic relationship that we can have between human and AI, and you women and men. Together, we can make a huge difference, avoiding bias, creating more trustworthy AI, and at the same time, the fascinating world is you don't just start with the data and think, okay, what insight do I create? The fascinating part is you are solving real needs, so really trying to understand that. That's exciting, and then seeing what insight do I generate from that data. And we can make a difference to patients' life every day. We can make a difference to many clinicians' lives every day. We can enable them to do what they do best. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Tina.
you.
Before you go off stage,
Yeah,
I have a question for you.
go for it.
Thank you for your talk.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, you are an example for most of us here, and you are in a beautiful position. It's awesome to see you taking the stage so confident. What is the #1 tip or advice that you could give to the audience here to achieve what they would like to achieve?
What I would say is, well, you know what? Actually, I did my PhD in data science. That was a long time back. That was about 2000. And after that, I never used it. You know, till almost 2014. So it's not like I really used it since I, studied. And 2014, when this awareness came up and, the acceptance of AI started increasing, and I became passionate about it. And then what I'm trying to say is, hey, you can start at any point. And what was exciting, again, it's not about, oh, data science, oh, do I have to be a statistician, a mathematician? Well, I was not always very good in maths, so I thought, oh, can I do that? Actually, then what I recognized is there's a role for everybody. And I took the dimension of, I really started going to the clinical sites, talking to the clinicians, talking to the patients, and then I realized it's beautiful. If I could really understand the need, and I myself have gone through different treatments, actually, and I know the experience I would love to have, and I feel like that's the difference that I can make. And then, of course, together with the wonderful, wonderful team of data scientists who I love at Philips, and I see many of you here, and I feel like together we can make a difference. And that's where the teamwork also comes, right? So that's my advice. You can play a role in data science in many ways to create that value. Don't have to worry whether you studied that, or don't have to worry if I'm great in maths. you can do it.
Thank you. I think a great tip. It's nice to see you so passionate.
Thank you
of
so
course,
much.
we have flowers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And have a seat.